Welcome everyone, I'm Brad. So before I get started, I just want to make a disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor and that the information I'm going to be giving during this video is from my own research, and I strongly suggest that you do the same thing and look into it, do the research and decide if this is for you or not. If you like this type of content, I invite you to like the video, and also you can subscribe to the channel so that you are informed every time I post a new video. So during this presentation, I'm going to be covering the following subjects. First, why to invest into precious metals. Then we'll be talking about the factors to consider when you're buying and selling. Then we'll go into what you should be buying. Afterwards, we'll talk about where you can buy. And finally, we'll talk about how to store the metal. All right, so let's get this started. Why invest in precious metals? There are several factors. The first one for me is that precious metals are hard money. So basically they are money that do not lose their value over time. So they're not affected by inflation. So this makes them a very good way to have money protected from the economy. For me, they're a good replacement for the emergency fund. So basically, normally, financial advisors will usually tell you that you should put aside 3 to 6 months of revenue in case of emergency. Most people do that through their bank accounts. The problem with that is that bank accounts give you interest rates lower than inflation, so that money is devaluating over time. So in this case, if you were to purchase silver or gold, for example, these metals will keep up with inflation, so they're going to keep their value over time. So this is a very good way to save money and not be affected by that. What I do recommend is to make a budget and decide what size of stack you're looking to build. My personal suggestion is 6 months of revenue, but basically it's up to you. You can decide to do more or less. The one thing is I would suggest not to put all of your money into an asset like silver or gold, because they do not provide revenue. And what they will do basically is keep up with inflation. So you're not going to be making money over time with them. It should be a part of your portfolio, but not the entirety of it. The other aspect, which is very important, is that you do not invest money into precious metals that you plan to use in the short or medium term. The reason for this is that when you purchase precious metals, you have to pay a premium for them. So basically, once you purchase, it's worth a little bit less than what you paid. This over time will go away. So basically, over a few years, you're going to get back that money. It's not going to be an issue. But if you were to buy today, for example, and sell in 2 or 3 weeks, you will be taking a loss. So it's not the type of thing you want to do. So for this reason, I would decide in advance what amount of money you're certain not to be in need of, and then you can invest that amount into your stack. So the other factors to consider when you're buying and selling, the first thing that you have to understand is the spot price. So the spot price basically is what the market determines what the metals are worth. So this changes from minute to minute once the market are open. The variation is usually pretty low, so it doesn't increase much or decrease much day by day. But that's how you determine what value your metal have. So in order to find that, all you have to do is go to Google, do a Google search for spot price of the metal. So for example, if you're looking for silver, you would do a spot price silver. And you can also add the currency if you want, so Canadian or US or whatever, and the chart will reflect that for you. The other aspect is the premium. The premium basically is the markup. So this is the way that the company is making money, selling you the gold or selling you the silver or whatever metal you decide to purchase. And usually it will vary depending on various factors. We'll be looking into it later in the video, but usually it's going to be a cost of about 2%, and it can go up to 150% in the worst cases. So there are some metals that are absolutely not worth investing into. The other thing that will be a cost to you will be be when you sell. So basically, unless you sell privately to someone, who is not a dealer, dealers will take a small percentage off of the spot price as a profit for the transaction. So for example, if the spot price is at, say, $15 for silver, they might give you $14.20 or $14.40 for an ounce of silver, and their profit is the 60 cents that they make during the transaction. It's a small cost, but it has, as I said earlier, if you're planning to do it on a short term, like if you add the buying cost plus the selling cost, then you can get a big hit for a short-term transaction. So that's why I suggest you don't do that. So the other aspect, as I talked earlier, was inflation. So basically, inflation is reflects how your money loses value over time. So basically, this is why things cost more over time. It's not that the items are worth more. So for example, if you take a house is a house, so it should cost the same thing no matter when it is, but it gains value because money is losing value. So basically that's the way it works. So the inflation will simply make your money worthless over a certain amount of time. So depending on the inflation rate, the value of your money could drop by 50% over, say, 40 years. It's really depending on the economy. So purchasing precious metals is a very good edge against that. Okay, so what should you buy? So the first thing I would suggest is to go into physical metal. So basically metal you can purchase and get in your possession, instead of going to ETFs or stocks or bonds related to the precious metal market. The precious metals are in various forms. The main ones are silver, gold, platinum, palladium, and rhodium. You also have minor ones like copper and other metals that are not really good investments, so I'm not really going to go over those. So once you know what type of metal you decide to buy, you have to decide what form you're gonna purchase. So the major ones, like the three major types, would be bars, which are also called ingots. Those usually offer the best value. They have the lowest premium of all of the forms that you can purchase. Then you have bullions. Bullions basically are usually either coins or bars, but what makes them a bullion is that they are a legal currency. So for example, if you purchase a 1 ounce bullion of gold, so you might be paying, say, $2,100 for it, but it will have a face value when you just go purchase something with it of, say, $200. So even though they have a face value and you can use them as currency, it's really not a good idea to do it because you're going to be losing a ton of money if you do that. But the main aspect of that is that if you go and purchase bullions, they are backed by governments, so it makes them really a good investment in terms of they are recognizable and people will have trust in them. So when you try to sell them, it's going to be much easier than if it's something that comes from a mint that no one knows about, or private seller that pours his own silver. Bullions are usually one of the best investments because of that. The other type would be rounds, and they're also called shields. They're coins that have no face value and are not a currency. So basically, they're like a bullion, except that they cannot be used for other purposes other than the actual value of the metal they contain. So the other aspect of purchasing would be to decide if you want to go with collectibles or just base metal value. My suggestion would be to go with base metal value, but that's really up to you. If you go into collectibles, the premium will be crazy high. So for example, say a bullion would be worth, I don't know, let's take $25. The same coin as a collectible will probably be worth $50 or $75. And the difference in price will give you two things. The first aspect is that usually the coins are nicer, so they look better. And the other thing is that their extra value is entirely dependent on people willing to purchase it from you. So if you go to a dealer and you have collectible coins, there is absolutely no guarantee that they're going to give you anywhere near what you paid for them. So it depends on rarity, it depends on various factors, but it's really speculative. So If you're into that, there's a huge market for that. But personally, I prefer to go with coins and bars that are simply valued at what the metal is worth. This way, I'm not at the risk of the item either losing value or me not being able to sell it because no one wants to pay for it. So those are another very important aspect you need to decide. You also have what's called semi-collectibles. So basically, usually those are coins that might have a more limited edition. Sometimes they will get a little bit of a value because of it, but most of their value will come from the base metal, not the numismatic aspect of it. Afterwards, you have to decide what size you want to purchase in terms of either coins or bars. The important ones are what's called fractional. So fractional would be less than an ounce. So usually it's going to be from 1 gram to 3 grams to, let's see, a tenth of an ounce, a quarter of an ounce, half an ounce. So those are the major fractional sizes. If you're gonna do the fractional, you have to expect to pay a much higher premium. Usually they're not worth it. It really depends on the metal. So for example, for silver, it's absolutely not worth it. It's you're gonna be losing a ton of money if you decide to do that. There is no way to make that profitable. If you go with gold, gold can have low premiums when you go with fractional. So you would have to look at the price and decide if the premium is too high or not for you. But for gold, I would consider doing it because, like, for example, half an ounce of gold or a quarter of an ounce of gold will probably have the same premiums as if you were purchasing silver. So it's not as good as purchasing an ounce or more of gold where the premiums are super low, but it's not horrible. For example, for gold specifically, a fractional would be something that you could be looking into, but for silver, I definitely wouldn't do it. So the most common size for purchases is the 1 ounce size. Either for coins or for bars, is the 1 ounce is pretty much the norm. It's the most liquid, it's the easiest to trade, easiest to sell and everything. So that's probably what you should be looking into when you start. You also have sizes of 2 ounces and 5 ounces available for most of the products. As you go up in size, the premium will get lower. Like if you have enough money to purchase, say, 5 ounces of silver, instead of purchasing 5 1-ounce bars or 5 1-ounce coins, you could purchase a 5-ounce bar or a 5-ounce coin, and your premium will be lower because of it. So that's a nice option. The other most common size that people will go to is the 10-ounce bar and the 10-ounce coin. Those have very low premiums and they're usually a good way to invest. Then you go up, there are other sizes available, but the next one, which is notable, is the 100 ounces. For me, this is not really worth it because, like, you're not going to be purchasing 100 ounces of gold. Like at $2,000 an ounce, you're looking at $200,000 to purchase 1 bar of 100 ounces. So when you go into those sizes, it's most likely with silver. And if you're going to be putting 100 ounces of silver, you might as well purchase a gold coin of 1 ounce, which will take a lot less space and is going to have a lower premium than your 100 ounces of silver. So that's my personal preference, but basically that's another size that's available and that people buy. Then you go into the kilo bar. Kilo bars, again, like I would go into gold instead of going into kilo in terms of silver. And then you have bars of like even larger. You can have bars weighting 100 pounds. It's there's no limit of the size that the bar can have. Those are mostly used for industrial uses and commercial uses. For example, a company that produces electronic components, things like that, that's what they're going to buy. Once you know what is the size that you're looking into buying, and you have set aside a budget, you need to find a location where to purchase. The one thing I would suggest is to go with reputable dealers so that you avoid the risk of having fake coins or fake bars. Because from reputable dealers, they deal directly with the mints, so you're assured that the product will be genuine. But if you go to some, I'll cover them in detail, but some of them you have no idea where the items come from. So there is a risk that you end up with a fake. And if that happens, it's a pure loss, basically. So it's really something that you should be looking into. So the first way to purchase precious metals will be to go to online vendors. There are several on the internet that you can deal with. The biggest ones and the most reputable would be places like Kitco, Silver Gold Bulls. Those are for Canada. In the US, AppMex is pretty good as well. But what I would suggest is once you do your research in Google and decide where to purchase, do a search and look at the reviews for the site. See if people are happy with their purchases, if there are issues, what they are, and everything. And you can also go to the various sites and compare prices. Sometimes they have specials. Like for example, they might be selling a bar at spot price, so you have no premium to pay. Some of the other specials you could have would be to have free delivery, which would reduce basically the premium for you again. So it's a good idea to keep a list of the various sellers for your country and decide where to purchase depending on the various criteria and what they have for sale. Also, not all dealers can sell everything. So, for example, if you're looking at building a collection of coins, some coins might be available at one dealer and not at the other one. So that's another thing that you have to look into. The other way to purchase would be to go to local vendors. With local vendors, the advantage usually is that you don't have to pay for shipping. You might be able to get a better price because of that. It really depends. If you have to drive like 50 miles and spend gas, then might not make any difference. But if you have something close by, that would be interesting. The other thing is local vendors might be able to show you the products before you purchase. So if you're the kind of person who, like the hands-on approach and, handle the metal before you purchase it, that would be a good thing. Depending on where you live, local vendors might carry what you want or not. So for example, where I live, all of the local vendors, all they do is numismatic, so they do collections. So yeah, so they don't carry bullions and they don't carry rounds for the metal content value only. They only carry what have a very high premium because of the collection aspect of it. I have one exception. We have a Kitco in the city, so Kitco basically have an office here, so I can go there and purchase metal at base value with a low premium. So that's usually what I do. So the other way to do it would be to go to trade shows. So you might see publicity either on the internet, or you might receive a pamphlet or anything like that in the mail saying that there's a trade show in your city, and you can go there, and usually if you do, there might be more than one vendor, so you're going to be able to shop around. So that might be a nice way to do it if you're into that. The other way would be private sales and private trades. For that, I would only do it if I know the person and have, I'm going to be sure basically that they're not going to try to rip me off. This is a higher risk aspect, so it's up to you if you decide you want to do that or not. Private trades are usually done when people are dealing mostly in collectibles. Like if you're dealing with base metals, there's very little value in doing private sales or private, purchases or trades. Might be, I don't know, maybe you'll find reasons to do it, but on average, I would say that would not be a good way to do it. Then you have eBay. So if you decide to purchase on eBay, really look at the seller's reviews and be very careful. There are a lot of fake coins on eBay, and I would definitely not do it. I'm too much risk averse to do that. It might take a while for people to realize that there are fakes, and so someone might be selling fakes for quite a good amount of time before people realize it and start posting reviews about it. So, it's not something I would look into if I were you. The other place you can purchase would be a site like Amazon. From my personal research, I've always found that Amazon prices are way higher than other online vendors. So if you go to Kitco, for example, you're going to be able to purchase the same coin that would be selling on Amazon for a much lower price. If the price is really, really low, like because online vendors usually sell very close to spot, there is a very high chance that it's going to be a fake. So again, it's not a place I would purchase, but it is an option that you can look into. There are several ways that you can store the metal. First off, you have the boxes. The one here is a monster box. So this contains quite a lot of metal. It's a box that allows you to store tubes, and the tubes, depending on the brand, usually contain in between 20 to 25 coins of 1 ounce each. So a box like that is usually worth, it's usually for silver, by the way. Like for gold you wouldn't need something like that, but for silver, if you go with a box, like, you can purchase them as a box, and you're looking usually at around $10,000 and more in terms of purchase price, because of all of the metal it contains. So then you have the containers that you can use for individual coins and individual bars. If you're purchasing for the base metal value, and you're going to be selling at spot price, it makes no difference if the coin is in good condition or not. So you don't have to use, capsules or tubes or anything like that to store the metal to protect it. There's no necessity for it. But if you like your coins to remain in good condition, like for me, even though I'm not looking into it as a collection aspect in terms of value, I do want my coins to look good. So personally, for my coins, I use capsules. My bars, I use a small box that I put it into in order to keep them safe. But again, it's not something that is needed. The only thing that I would suggest is not to use vinyl sleeves. Vinyl sleeves can damage the coin over time. There is a chemical reaction that occurs when you put silver into vinyl for some reason. I don't know the chemistry of it, but it will make the metal tarnish green, and it will damage the coin over time. So they're perfectly fine to carry. Like if you go to Kitco or a local dealer and they give you the coins into a vinyl sleeve, no problem. You can do that. It will protect the coin during transport. Once you get home, I would strongly suggest you remove it from the vinyl and put it in something else. The third aspect would be the security. This includes various aspects. So the first thing is, what is the value of your stack? Like if your stack is worth $200, I don't think you need to take special precautions or anything like that. You can just keep it in a drawer or something. It's not really an issue. But if you have a lot of value, then you will have to look into ways to secure your stack so that it doesn't get stolen. So the other aspect would be what size is your stack, and this is mostly dependent on the quantity of metal you purchased and also the type. So for example, a 1 ounce coin of gold will take probably about 100 of the size of the equivalent value in silver. So if you're mostly into silver, expect that it will take more room to store, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult if you go into larger sizes. And if you go into gold, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be super easy to store. What I'm planning to do personally is to purchase silver for a certain amount of time and then switch into gold. The third point would be where to hide your stack. Obviously, if it's out of sight, it's going to be much safer than if you keep it in a shelf, on display. So try to find a place where people wouldn't be looking for it, and that you can have access to it if you need to without too much trouble. The other aspect would be secrecy. So what I mean by secrecy is like, maybe try not to talk about it, like unless you're talking with other investors and you're trying to trade or something like that. Like it's just, if you have, especially if your stack is worth a lot of money, then I wouldn't, try to advertise that to people. It creates a risk. Once people know that you have it, it creates a reason to break into your house. So secrecy would be, if no one knows about it, they're not going to be looking for it. And the last point would be offsite storage. So once your stack gets to very high value, I would strongly suggest you put it in a bank, in a vault. This way you're really protected and there's no risk at all. If you already have a bank vault, that would be the best place to keep it, unless you want to have access to it on a regular basis. It's the safest way. All right, so I hope that this video was informative for you, and thank you for watching. Again, if you like this type of content, please subscribe. This will help me with knowing what people are looking for. Also, if you want to see more videos from me, if you subscribe to the channel, it will allow YouTube to let you know when I post. So I strongly suggest you do that as well. So have a nice day, and good luck starting with your new investments.